Give the floor to the representative of the Syrian Arab Republic. Shukran.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to begin by begging your indulgence to grant me the sufficient time as a relevant and concerned party to address the multiple aspects that were featured in the briefing by the Director General and in other statements. It is unfortunate that the OPCW transforms from a technical organization into an instrument in a geopolitical game led by the U.S. and its allies. The unprecedented decision that is illegitimate recently taken by the Conference of the States Parties to the organization against Syria is clear evidence of the extent of manipulation, politicization, and pressure exerted by those countries within the organization, and the groundless accusations that we categorically reject and we consider them means of pressure and political blackmail. Mr. President, the use of or threat of use by terrorist organizations of chemical weapons and toxic chemicals in Syria since 2013 until now has posed a real danger against the Syrian people and a serious challenge to the implementation of the non-proliferation regime of chemical weapons as per the Chemical Weapons Convention. It is reprehensible that the states sponsoring these terrorist organizations have worked during past 8 years to divert the attention of the member states of the UN and the state parties to the Convention on Chemical Weapons from confronting this terrorist threat. And they simultaneously apply pressure on the various international investigation teams to impose their agendas and get them to carry out their activities in violation of the working methods stipulated in the convention and as per the terms of reference. This deliberate subversive approach to the rules and principles of the OPCW followed by some member states in this council, has led to wrong conclusions that undermined the credibility and professionalism of the OPCW's work and have limited the ability of the international community to confront this terrorist threat. This behavior is in stark contrast to these countries' responsibilities in maintaining international peace and security. In this context, I would like to refer to the important information that we have frequently provided to the United Nations and the OPCW regarding the possession and transfer of chemical weapons and toxic chemicals by terrorist organizations to stage incidents of chemical attacks with the aim of accusing the Syrian Arab Army. Dealing seriously with such terrorist threats requires the OPCW and the relevant UN organs to deal with this information with utmost care and to coordinate with the relevant Syrian authorities to conduct the necessary investigations. But unfortunately, none of this has happened. The Director General has referred to more than 197 memoranda from Syria on the possession and transfer and attempts to use chemical weapons. However, the fact-finding mission did not investigate into any of this information quickly and seriously, while it would promptly act upon any information contained in open sources or received from suspicious sources about accusations against the Syrian government. I would like to also draw the attention of this Council to the fact that we recently provided the Secretary General of the United Nations with information obtained regarding the terrorist organization's use of chemical weapons in Khan al-Assal in 2013. and this information was forgotten by His Excellency the Director General completely. This information confirms the involvement of the so-called National Coalition of Syrian Revolutionary and Opposition Forces in this terrorist crime, which claimed the lives of 25 martyrs and injured more than 110 civilians and military personnel. And this unfortunately remains without investigation despite our repeated demands. Mr. President, regarding comments in some statements on the Syrian declaration, the initial Syrian declaration, I would like to make the following clear. First, the declaration assessment team is not an investigation team. It was rather established to assist the Syrian authorities. Second, the holding of consultations between the declaration assessment team and the Syrian National Authority and the dates of the team's visits to Damascus are subject to arrangements agreed between the two sides in line with the obligations of each. Therefore, any round of consultations will naturally be postponed if the date was not appropriate. Third, the experts of the Syrian National Authority provide, during these rounds of consultations, they provide the team with many technical explanations that fully support the information announced by Syria. Accordingly, it is not acceptable for anyone to make pre-accusations about issues that are still under discussion. Fourth, finding traces of a chemical agent in a test sample is not evidence of a prohibited chemical activity. The continuation of technical consultations on such issues requires refraining from prejudgment or jumping to unrealistic conclusions or false perceptions. In light of the aforementioned, we categorically reject the insistence of some to question Syria's initial declaration or its cooperation with the Technical Secretariat and the deliberate disregard of any progress achieved. Mr. President, my delegation takes note of what was referred to in the Director General's report on the results of the 7th round of inspection of the two facilities of the Scientific Studies and Research Center. The report indicated that the inspection found no substances or activities that are inconsistent with the Syrian Arab Republic's obligations under the Convention. We would have hoped for the report not to ignore the assistance and logistical support and facilitation provided by Syria. Despite that, the center is not relevant to the chemical program. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, concerns about procedural flaws and professional irregularities in the working methods of the fact-finding mission still exist. They have raised many questions about the professionalism and credibility of the mission's reports. The latest report on the alleged incident in Douma continues to resonate in different capitals. How can these reports be credible while its sources are suspicious and while the witnesses are terrorist agents and the samples are collected by white helmets and investigations are carried from a distance? Are these normative methods as per the convention? How is basing ourselves on reasonable grounds or most likely, does this create credibility? Mr. Director General has said that 193 states have not questioned the report. I would like to remind him that I personally, during my multiple statements before the Executive Council, I have presented a lot of aspects of the flawed methodology that is far from professional and credible. And Syria has rejected the conclusions of the report. Accordingly, we face a case of non-compliance by the organization as per its own requirements. Why does the technical secretariat, I ask, insist on refusing to listen to the substantive observations and valid inquiries made by Syria, Russia, and others, along with important personalities, specialized experts, and prominent academics? The Director General has mentioned that the fact-finding mission that went to investigate the Duma incident was delayed for several days in Beirut. He could explain the reasons that caused the delay. I would like to ask, why would the team leader who reached Syria on Saturday, the 13th of April, and left on the following day in the morning, Sunday, the 14th of April, and did not visit the site of the incident in Duma, while the inspector or investigator A is the person who went to Duma and carried out the investigation? Accordingly, his observations are excluded, and his report is excluded, and the leader's report are taken into account. Who's the person who did not visit the site? I would have also liked to ask him why the investigations into incidents reported by the Syrian government, why they take years to report on, as we have incidents that are still being investigated, 5 or more incidents that have been investigated since 2017, close to 4 years, without reports, while priority is given to reporting on investigations of alleged incidents raised by hostile or suspicious parties. This is a clear indication of a double standard. In conclusion, I reiterate that the Syrian Arab Republic has fulfilled its obligations arising from its voluntary accession to the Chemical Weapons Convention in 2013. We have disposed of, in an unprecedented manner, our stockpiles of these weapons and have destroyed our production facilities in record time and under difficult conditions. Syria regrets that its continuous cooperation with the Technical Secretariat of the OPCW was only met with ingratitude and denial. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Syrian Arab Republic for his statement.